It's just confusing. If you're looking at a 100-foot person, you're not going to forget that that's Persephone. Oh no, that's Hades. I'd never really done so much CGI before, I think. Hi, I'm Ruairi O'Connor. I play Orpheus in the Sandman, and this is Set Stories with Collider. Well, I was cast pretty close to starting filming, so it was really like a baptism of fire. I was familiar with the myths and everything, but obviously this is a slightly different take on it. I had to understand what it was like to hold the lyre and to not look like it was like someone playing guitar on screen who's never touched a guitar. It's quite obvious. So I went around for 2 weeks holding that outside in my house in London, walking around the parks looking like I was going insane, I'm sure. And then it was just about getting to see the scripts and getting to read the comic books as much as I could and then imbuing myself in that world. Even before we got on set, we got to sit down with Alan Heinberg and go through every single word, every single line, every single piece of punctuation. I think Alan's a real genius at running a show, and any kind of problems we've come into were definitely noted ahead of time. And then on set, I think it's a father-son relationship, but there's a huge distance between them. I don't think Orpheus has seen him that many times as he grows up. And Tom, when he's getting into character in this, he listens to, I guess it's post-punk 80s music and as part of the makeup trailer, he's really getting into it. It's a very different type of being that he's being. So he sits there and he reads his book like a member of the Addams family, and then we all chat and everything. So it felt like there was this distance. And also I saw him in an amazing rendition of Seawall, where he did a double-hander with Jake Gyllenhaal many years ago. I was blown away by that. So it felt like I had reverence for him. And then there are actors who are lighthearted in their approach and they suddenly turn it on. And then there are actors who are really kind of trying to juice everything out of it. And I'm often more like that. And that was where I felt similar to Tom. And so I felt like there was enough difference to kind of try to bridge the gap. You're there, you may as well put everything into it, And I could see he was doing that as well. Yeah, well, I was listening to the songs I was going to have to sing pretty much constantly because it's ancient Greek. I don't have the best memory for English lyrics. There are songs I've been singing myself for 7 or 8 years. I still just can't get the verses right. So I was kind of hypnotizing myself almost with the ancient Greek and listening to that. And I was listening to The National and stuff and kind of emotional. I think he's a bit of a soft boy, Orpheus, especially at the start. And he's sentimental and he feels like he's idealistic. Yeah, there was. Later on in the season, when I was playing a disembodied head, sitting in a table and they cut out a hole for your head and you get put in it and then you're in place and they're like, do you want to get out between takes? But you're like, to be honest, it takes so long to get back into this. So I just sit there and people go about their business, kind of getting to see what it was like to not have any movement at all and to see the world go by, and people kind of forget you're there. You become part of the furniture, which was disturbing and helpful in its own way. But what was surprising about that was actually how liberating it was to not have to worry about using your hands or your body or wonder what you were doing with your hands, which is always a problem with acting sometimes. And then the other thing is I was wearing basically 4 wedding dresses applied on top of each other and torn to shreds. So I'm on the side of a cliff in the hardest point of my life, figuring out what I'm going to do. Am I going to the underworld or not? Can I get my wife back? My sandals are filled with wedding dress, and it looked amazing, but it was not practical to walk to the underworld in. So it helped with the consternation, I think, a little bit, to be constantly straight down and falling on the ground a lot of the time, and walking across bridges that they would construct for the underworld as well. And they're like, you'd be all right without a harness. It's 12 or 15 feet up. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure I will be. But it adds to the sense of something could go wrong here. They're very tight trousers. They're made out of, I guess, a swimsuit material or a diving, like a wetsuit material. Looks great. Again, very difficult to squeeze on. But then once you're in, you're in. Hard to go to the toilet and make sure that none of the wispy bits get in. Then you're constantly being preened by the costume. And people from costume are saying, Rory, please stop moving backwards because it's all bustled up now. You have to get rid of it. So you have to lock yourself into position. And again, these are really restrictive things. But what I do is I'm like, this guy is not having the best day of his life. And so if I can feel a little bit more of that, then maybe it'll help translate what he's feeling a bit. I think it would have been a few years ago, but I did another TV series where I was playing Henry VIII and the Spanish princess, and they had buttons back then, but they didn't use them. They'd use them to fasten. So you were fastened in. It was like, Rory, have you gone to the toilet? Because this is it for the next 4.5 hours. And there's no air conditioning and you're strapped in. So I did a lot of meditation at the time. They were like, I'm sorry I'm coming up to you and touching you all the time. I'm like, I had no idea that you are. I was wondering, because the Sandman was the next one. I wasn't just wearing modern dress. And I just went straight back to that place. Those difficulties can make you worry less about the lines and what you're going to do. If you have too much headspace to sit there and think about it, sometimes it isn't as good, In the underworld, obviously I'm looking at 100 feet tall Persephone and Hades, but the actors are not 100 feet tall. You're looking at two blank spaces on a wall, and it's just confusing. If you're looking at a 100-foot person, you're not going to forget that that's Persephone. Oh no, that's Hades. I've never really done so much CGI before, I think, and people say actors use your imagination, but you're normally talking to someone, you're having a conversation. But to truly inhabit what it is to look at people 100 feet in the air and they're not there, I was desperate to see the footage after and see if it just looked like I was just swimming in it. But then again, I think as long as you can make that work, as long as he's not having a relaxing time, and he wasn't, it can be okay. Yeah, there are, but then they kind of change as the camera might be pushed forward or something. It might not look like you're looking in the right place, even if it had looked right before. So they can't really put something directly for you to look at. I'm reminded of Lord of the Rings. Ian McKellen said that he was working, 30 feet away from people he's meant to be right beside because they're meant to be shown in forced perspective. And then in The Hobbit, it was just a man with a load of tennis balls on him, and he cried that day because he was like, I thought it was hard before, but at least they were there, and now it's just some man representing 50 people. But I think now the CGI is so extensive and they can do so amazing things that you go and there's not even a man in tennis ball. It's just a blank wall, and you really have to use your imagination. I think it's a good thing. I like a challenge because it is challenging. Aurora, who did my prosthetics, because I have tattoos torn apart, and we got to compare our experiences of like 2007, 2008 indie rock a lot, and what's happened to all those indie bands, and we had a lot of fun laughing. And we need to, because you're spending 2-3 hours getting prosthetics on and then another hour and a half getting them taken off at the end of the night. My favorite moment from not filming but doing it was being in Abbey Road and recording the songs. I brought my best friend Kevin, because he's a huge Beatles fan and I'm a huge Beatles fan, and my voice was a bit rough that day, and they're like, go down to Studio 2. We were in one of the newer studios. The pianos there will warm you guys up. And then we went down and just sang Hey Jude with the original pianos that the Beatles used. It's like insane. And then later on, they just said, go down yourselves and just be there. We were walking around by ourselves there. It was insane. I came back another time to do a few touch-ups, and I was like, can I go in there to warm up? And they were like, absolutely not. Are you kidding? So I don't know. It was just some kind of, yeah, it was very lucky to be able to do it just on a weekend. No, I haven't kept any props, but I did get this from Netflix. They sent an hourglass, a genuine hourglass. So this takes an hour to go. And I was like, my girlfriend was like, oh no, I got more clutter for the house, awful. I've actually been using it kind of constantly. It's like the opposite of a phone. You just walk by it and I see it's gone. I put it over, and then I'll walk past 45 minutes later and see the genuine passing of time. So I don't know what it's doing for me, but it's kind of bringing me back to the real world a bit. So I was really into playing football at the time, as in like walking to the gym and using a football at my feet, and just for coordination. Actually, it was more of like seeing if I could look forward and bring a football. So I brought it to set a couple of times, and then I can't actually remember who, but I brought it outside and they immediately kicked it straight into like a $200,000 camera, and I was very embarrassed and upset. But anyway, so the football had to go away, and that was the end of the football there.
Rory, this was really amazing, and it was so nice to meet you.
Cheers, you too, Michael. I appreciate it.